ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Awesome. So I thought today we'll just do one round of chanting of the 10 slokas that we learned how to chant, and then we'll go into the meanings from Tatanka Yugali Bhuta Tapanodaba Mandala. I think that's the one. No, Tara Kanti Tiraskari. Some beautiful things that I wanted to share from that Namam onwards. We'll look at the meanings. So I'll probably quickly chant the 10 slokas and I'll do it very slowly. If there are any corrections in the way you're currently chanting, just know is either know if you have any questions, raise it after that, and then we'll go into the meanings right away. ॐ श्रीमाता श्रीमहाराज्ञी श्रीमत्सिंहासनेश्वरी चिदग्निकुण्डसम्भूता देवकार्यसमुद्यता उद्यद्भानुसहस्राभा चतुर्बाहुसमन्विता रागस्वरूपपाषाढ्या क्रोधाकाराङ्कुशोज्ज्वला मनोरूपेक्षुकोदण्डा पञ्चतन्मात्रसायका निजारुणप्रभापूरमज्जद्ब्रह्माण्डमण्डला चम्पकाशोकपुन्नागसौगन्धिकलसत्कचा कुरविन्दमणिश्रेणी कनत्कोटीरमण्डिता अष्टमी चन्द्रविभ्राजदळिकस्थलशोभिता मुखचन्द्रकलङ्काभमृगनाभिविशेषिका वदनस्मरमाङ्गल्यगृहतोरणचिल्लिका वक्त्रलक्ष्मीपरीवाहचलन्मीनाभलोचना नवचम्पकपुष्पाभनासा दण्डविराजिता ताराकान्तितिरस्कारि नासाभरणभासुरा कदम्बमञ्जरीक्लुप्तकर्णपूरमनोहरा ताटङ्कयुगलीभूततपनोडुपमण्डला पद्मरागशिलादर्श परिभाविकपोलभूः नवविद्रुमबिम्बश्रीन्यक्कारिरदनच्छदा शुद्धविद्याङ्कुराकार द्विजपङ्क्तिद्वयोज्ज्वला कर्पूरवीटिकामोदसमाकर्षद्दिगन्तरा. Any questions or thoughts on these 10 slokas on how to chant?
Just a quick question. For the shloka, fifth shloka, it was Vishesh Shaka, right?
So there are two different variations. I've chanted both, so you can do Viseshika or
Okay, fine.
Visheshaka as well.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, if so, if there are no other questions,
I have one.
please go ahead.
The eighth. Sorry. The fifth one, Ashtami Chandra Viprajat Aligasthala Shobhita or Daligasthala Shobhita.
Because when we chant together, it becomes Dalikasthala Shobhita. But you're right, when we split the words, it is Alikasthala Shobhita. Due to the chanting rules, it becomes Dalikasthala.
Oh, okay.
Sridevi, I have another question.
Sure.
So, I just realized when you're reading, you said like, if you visualize the meaning, it's more, you get more, I guess, out of the prayer you're doing. But when you're reading and trying to emphasize to do it the proper way, I mean, when you read those 10, I didn't even have time to think of like one meaning, what it meant. So how do you do it?
So one comes after the other. So chanting properly comes first. Emphasize on even if you're chanting the first 4 or 5 slokas at a time, you chant it a few times. And if you did it, say 10 times, you get that very accurately and you're just getting that consistency. Once you're confident about that, then by the very flow of it, even if you're chanting it in the middle of this middle of the night or when you're sleeping, you will still get the same consistency. At that time, your visualization will get stronger. So even like, if you just open any sloka and then try to chant, and if you feel that same consistency, then you know you're chanting it correctly. And sometimes some people get used to one way of chanting because, like, mothers used to chant when we were younger and we kept hearing the same thing and somehow it got stuck. And if you're correcting it, then we tend to not focus on visualization at that time, just focus on that particular sloka, get it right, get it right, get it right, and then we start visualizing for it. Okay. Okay, so now we will go into the beautiful meaning. And here I'm actually going a little deeper than what I'm generally doing in these classes. So let's see how it goes. And sometimes I actually feel like, mother knows exactly when I'm supposed to be stopping and to what extent I can share. So let's see. Like, and I've actually prepared some notes as well to make sure that I remember all the points that I'm not forgetting. So we'll still leave it to her divine grace, but we'll try. So the namam is Tara Kanti Tiraskari Nasabharana Bhasura. So Tara Kanti Tiraskari, something that is excelling or insulting in a way. Tiraskarana is the word in Sanskrit. There is no equivalent of it in English. So as if it is excelling beyond the Taras Kanti, that is how Nasa Bharanam is, that is how the abharanams that mother is wearing on her nose are shining. So that's the meaning. But there is a stuti called as Abharana Stuti. And it is very a Sri Vidya Upasaka's one of the stutis that we get to hear. So in that one, actually, all the abharanas that mother is wearing, they get described. So I'm going to share some of what is in that stuti in this one. And even Bhaskara Raya explains this a little bit in the Saubhagya Bhaskaram. But we will go a little more than what Bhaskara Raya was trying to explain. So apparently, on the right nostril, mother is wearing a pagadam or a red coral. And on the left nostril, she is wearing a vajram. So, and in the middle, she's wearing something like a hanging, a dangling abharanam, which is so it is described as Nasa Grena Nava Mauktikam, a very new, fresh pearl is what she is wearing. And how they describe it is the pagadam represents Shukra, like, when we talk about Navaratnas and the planets. So the red coral represents Shukra, and the Vajram represents Kuja. And the Navamauktikam moon, that represents moon, Chandra. So in one way, they're saying all the planets are literally she's wearing them as are her uh, abharanas, which gives us like the Virat Swarupam of the mother. The other deeper meaning that they actually tell us about this is the Nadi Mandala Vyavastha is being described here, in which the Pagadam, the red, or what represents Surya, is the Pingala Nadi. And the Vajra, the white, represents Chandra, the Ida Nadi. And the Mauktikam, in the white and the cold Mauktikam, the coolness and the whiteness, that actually represents the Sushumna Nadi. So it's almost like the mother is the Ajapa Swarupam, and like the Ajapa is the inhalation, exhalation, and throughout the day, like there are 21,600 breaths that we take on an average, and for each of the chakras there are a certain number of breaths, that the inhalation exhalation combination that we offer to each of those chakras. There are very specific numbers to each of those, and that constitutes overall to the 21,600. So she is now also the one that is the inhalation and the exhalation. She is the breathing apparatus itself. She is everything. So this represents the importance of the Ida Pingala and the Sushumna Nadi. So that is the other meaning that is given for her Abharanas. So that's the extent that we will go in that one. The next namam is
Excuse me, can you please say that Ida Pingla one more time? I didn't
sure,
get that.
sure. So on the right hand, right nostril, she is wearing the pagadam, and on the left nostril, she is wearing the vajram. And in the center, there is the Navamuktikam, right? The dangling Navamuktikam. So red also represents Surya. In the first example that we were taking, or the first one that we were taking it as interpretation, is the pagadam represents Shukra, and Vajram is represented it represents Kuja, so it's all the planets. In the second interpretation, we are taking it as red represents Surya as well,
Okay,
and therefore because Pingala Nadi, the main the deity is Surya, and the Ida Nadi's deity is Chandra, right? The one is
yes,
the heat and the cool. In that sense, it's taken as she is the Ajapa Swarupam, or the Nadi Mandala Vyavastakarini.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Shall we move to the next one? The next one is Kadamba Manjari Klupta Karnapura Manohara. And even just, if you imagine mother as this a beautiful lady, and you are open to interpret whatever age you want to interpret her to be as, whether she's very nice, middle-aged 60 years old, or a young 20-year-old, you would still get this a nice beautiful visualization. In a previous mantra we were talking about mother is wearing all the 5 different kinds of flowers, which is this one, where is that? Champaka
Champaka
Ashoka
Ashoka
Punnaga
Punnaga.
Saugandhika Lasatkacha. Yeah. So she's wearing all of those 5 kinds of flowers in her hair, and her hair is giving those flowers the perfume, is what we have studied underneath that, right? Now, all of those flowers are just covering her ears, as if overseeing from her ears on what's going on in the universe, is how it is described. And then we will go into a little more about the ears themselves. So we will stop at that and go into the next namam. Tatanka Yugali Bhuta Tapanodupa Mandala. It's a beautiful nama. And what I heard from one of our gurujis is that the ladies who chant this nama, their what we call as in in Telugu Aidavatanam, or basically their husbands get longevity of life. Now we'll go into the meaning of this namam. Tapana Mandala and Udupa Mandala. So there are 2 terms in this. So Udu means nakshatras, and Udupa is somebody who is the king of nakshatras, or Chandra. So Tapana Mandala is Surya Mandalam, and Udupa Mandala is the nakshatra, or the Chandra Mandalam. So again, here we are seeing the Vishwa Vigraham of the mother. But years have been formed of the Vayu Tejas. When we were talking about the Panchikaranam process and whatnot, you will notice that from the Panchabhutam, the Vayu, came the Panchatanmatra, the ear part. So what it is also showing us, it is the ears are the Dikdevata Swarupam, or they are representing the Dik Devatas. And I'm hoping everybody knows the 10 Diks, or sometimes we say Ashtadik Palakas, but there are 10 because there is the up and down, or the top and the bottom. So the Indra, Agni, Vayu, Yama, Nirruti, Varuna, all the Dik Devatas are on the form of the ears. And ears are listening to the Shrutis, and that's the other explanation that they give, is any chants or any stutis or anything that is being, all the prayers that are being said. So, mother is listening to those through these ears, is how the other explanation is. But the more important thing is this Surya Chandra. we are saying that on one ear, like one ear is the Surya Mandalam, and the other ear is the Chandra Mandalam. And there, and here Bhaskara Raya very specifically says that Surya Chandra have been described to be in three different positions in the mother. One is in her eyes, so that we have seen, and then the second is in her as her ears, and the third is as her breasts. So one the part is she is the Sarva Devatmakam, because first thing, like all she's literally wearing the devatas as her organs on her body. So we will see that, and she is the Sarva Mantratmakam. She is the universe herself, right? So there is the Vishwa Shakti Rupam that we are looking at. The beautiful description that so in sorry Bhaskara Raya gives in the Saubhagya Bhaskaram is Surya Chandrau Stano Devyaha Taveva Nayane Smritau Ubhau Tatanka Yugalam iti Vaidiki Shruti. So he brings something from Shruti, the Vedas, saying they are mother's breasts, they are mother's eyes, and they are also mother's ears. And there are some significance of Surya and Chandra that gets described as well. So one is Surya and Chandra are the more important, aspects of us having Darshana Shakti. To be able to see, we need light, and we get that light essentially from Surya and Chandra. And moon is also the devata for Manas. So for us to, even if we did not have light, there's no light around, the other part, like the thinking apparatus is the Manas, and we are visualizing. We are not necessarily seeing something tangible, but we are visualizing, and therefore Chandra is also giving us Darshana Shakti through Manas. All Indriyas are nothing but devasas. So here we are talking about who is in the mother, and therefore the namam, they connect it with Deva Karya Samudyata. So she is, while all of these indriyas and our body organs are all devatas, and they are doing their functions, she's the one that is allowing us, or allowing them, all the devatas, to do their function. So therefore she is the Devakarya Samudhyata. This is the other meaning. The one we've seen in the past, like when we were doing that namam, is that she is there to kill Bandasura, because because he's wreaking havoc. So that is one Devakaryam, but the Devakaryam that's happening within us. Think about the immense amount of work and functions that are happening within our body. So she's also the one that is making those functions happen. So the second one, so that's about the Darshana Shakti. They also say it is she's the Sakshi Bhutam. The eyes are the Sakshi Bhutam, and there is something called as Chakshu Vidya in the 32 Brahma Vidyas that get taught in the Upanishads. So essentially, what Chakshu Vidya is all about is when we are talking to somebody, we talk with our mouth, but then we generally look at the eyes and talk. And if somebody is not looking at the eyes and talking, we also say, like, that represents that person is not, telling the truth and things like that. So that there are some of those psychology studies that we do. So what Brahma Vidya, the Chaksha Vidya teaches is mother is, or the Chaitanyam in us is coming through our eyes as the Sakshi of everything, as the witness of whatever is happening around us. So sometimes there is also this aspect of doing meditation and looking into somebody's eyes, and deeply enough just go beyond their body and who the person is. Just looking into somebody's eyes, you will see that flavor of chaitanyam right there. So try that. And if you're hesitant to do it, even if you want to do it in front of a mirror, and ignore everything else, all the surroundings, yourself, including your body and mind, and pass all of those and just stare at your eyes for a few moments, like, at least 30 to 40 seconds, you will actually see why the body is different than the Atman. So Chakshu Vidya is that. So here eyes are representing the Sakshi Bhutam. and ears are getting information fed to them, right? And they say, the way that is described in one of the stotrams is, eyes are observing things, and as sakshis they're saying, okay, this person has done this, and like, they're just doing all the calculations, and through ears they give this information to mother on, and they say, like, the way it is beautifully explained is, it's like siblings going and complaining, what he did, like, mom, that's what's happening with that guy. So that's how everything is being reported to mother, so observed through the eyes and reported to mother through the ears. So the first one is Drishya Shakti, is what we talked about, and then the ears is the Nada Shakti. The last form is the Surya Chandra, also represent mother's breasts, and breasts are the Poshana Shakti, or the sustenance, and something that provides nourishment to the children, all of us. And how does sustenance happen? So Surya is the prana Shakti for everything that's happening on earth, and Chandra, or the Soma, is the energy that helps Oshadhis, or the plants, grow. And in the sloka that I was talking about during Vishnu Sahasranamam, uh, pu- Pushnami chaushadi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmakaha, is what Bhagavan says in chapter 15. So I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Or Oshadhis could also mean all plants. Oshadhis could also mean all medicines, or medical plants. There are multiple meanings to the word Oshadhi. But through Chandra, all of this sustenance, or the Oshadhis are getting the energy to sustain, to germinate. So the Prana Shakti and the Soma Shakti are what is creating the what we need for sustaining in this universe. So that's the explanation for Tatanka Yugali Bhuta. Then we are moving on to Padmaraga Siladarisa Paribhavi Kapola Bhuhu. I want to pause for a quick second to ask if there are any thoughts, any comments before we move to the next one.
Sriji, can you just please summarize Kadamba Manjari Klupta and Tatanka Yugli Buddha? Because when you go into such detailed explanations, I find myself getting lost and ultimately don't know what to visualize.
Okay. So I think I do understand what you're saying, Taraji, and sometimes I actually feel that too. As we and you have to help me how this class should, like, and what comments I get from this class. Generally, there is a class that we would just rush it because everybody is in a rush, or there is, like, 4 months or 3 months that we have to finish this syllabus. So we tend to rush, and then some others, it doesn't matter, you understand one thing properly and that's fine with me. So I try to sometimes I'm rushing, so let me know, stop me when you feel I'm rushing, so I can just go a little slower. I appreciate that feedback. So Kadamba Manjari Klupta, Kadamba flowers, the ones that were covering the ear, and just as if overseeing the universe and what's happening in the universe and how mother is maintaining the universe, are being witnessed by these flowers, is how it is described. And that's the extent that we went into that namam. The next namam, Tatanka Yugali Bhuta, Tapanodupa Mandala, Tapana Mandala and Udupa Mandala are the descriptions that we have to take. So what we are saying is, ears are the Surya and Chandra represent mother's ears, and then Bhaskara Raya goes into that description that was given in Vedam, which is Surya and Chandra represent mother's ears, her eyes, and her breasts. And then there is a description of why her eyes are Surya and Chandra, why her ears are Surya and Chandra, and why her breasts are Surya and Chandra. So that's essentially the summary.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments before we move on?
Guruji, I just wanted to know, when you said Kadamba Manjari, is that also signifies a particular flower or something like that?
The Kadamba flowers is the one
Okay.
example of flowers that they are talking about. But we know that mother is wearing all the 5 kinds of flowers as well, right?
Or say, like what you said about Nava Champaka.
Correct. Yeah, Champaka, Ashoka, Punnaga, Champaka, Ashoka, Punnaga, Saugandhika. So there are multiple types of flowers that mother is wearing.
So Kadamba is the color is what? Is a kind of a flower.
Kind of a flower, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Kadamba
Guruji,
Pushpam.
when you're doing this, like as I'm visualizing, mother is going so enormous, like she's not inside my vision. She's going so enormous, like by the time I like look at her, like she's way like the universe, everything, right? Like that, what to say, like so mesmerizing. She's like the Brahmanda Saruba she's become.
Exactly.
Getting
Right?
goosebumps. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Exactly. And generally we say, like, she's so approachable as a mother that we can literally play in her lap. And at the same time, she's so, like, param of everything, right? So it's like, how close to what she really is. It's quite fantastic. So the next namam is Padmaraga Siladarsha Paribhavi Kapola Bhuhu. This is a phenomenal name if you visualize it. So kapolas are cheeks. And generally, like, in upamanas, like, Kalidasas, upamanams, and things like that, cheeks are represented or, like, are compared to mirrors. And here also, Shiladarshi, like, Shiladarsha is what the description is. So they are like mirrors, but not the white regular mirror. They're saying it's Padmaraga Shiladarsha. Padmaraga is like a Navaratnam. Because if you remember from the original, like, Dhyana slokas, she is the Sindhuraruna Vigraha. She is the color of the Sindhura Varnam. She's the red, like, the complexion is as if Sindhura Aruna. Aruna is red and Sindhuram is the Bottu, right? Like the Kunkumam. So she's that Vigraha. So they're saying, oh, so suddenly we are not saying the cheeks are white in color, but they're Padmaraga Silas, as if Padmaraga Ratnam has been well cut and shined to the highest degree, and you can see your reflection through those, and her cheeks are like that. And they also say it's not just that, Paribhavi means they are way beyond. So even this is the tiraskr kind of word that we are seeing again. So kind of these, her cheeks excel or insult in a way, the tiraskaranam karoti of the Padmaraga Silas or Padmaraga Sila Darshanas. So that's how mother's cheeks are. Does that make sense?
Guruji, I mean, somebody was talking. Okay, let them finish and I'll talk.
I think it's
Is there a difference between Kapolam and Kabolam?
I haven't heard Kabolam for this one. It is Kapola, like
No, no, no. I'm generally asking, like, because they say, like, when you're doing that Dikshandehi, you take the Kapolam and go, right? Is there like some sort of connection? Is
I
it like
I
a
don't
cheek or?
think so. I don't think so, but I will have to get back to you on that. I will
Thank you.
write that down. I will get some references. Okay, I've written it down. Lataji, you had a comment?
Yeah, when you said that when this Padma Raga Siladarsa, so I just want to know how we have to visualize mother now. So in each stanza, I'm closing my eyes to visualize her, but in this, how do I visualize her? Like you can.
She is so shiny and bright, and then she's like, her cheeks are also transparent that you can see your reflection in it. That's the physical way of visualizing it. But the other more deeper interpretation of this, you are nobody other than the reflection of herself. You are
Okay.
her. Like we are all the Maya Swarupam. She has created us. So we are a reflection of her. So when you see the universe, you are seeing this whole, you have to see through it more transparently, Then how we are currently visualizing is you and me and this laptop and this lampshade, but it is more so there is nothing but her in everything. So everything is a reflection of you. So you are just seeing her reflection in everything. So that's the
So
deeper
it's
interpretation.
so it's like a
Guruji.
mirror where we see ourselves in the like a mirror over there, and we see ourselves in her.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And it's the red Padmaraga mirror. It's not the regular mirror.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Guruji, I had a question. Now,
Sure.
when we are seeing this, like when they are defining like the bimbas or the pradimas in the temple, each people do different things, right? One is like in granite, one is like if you go to Sharda Mandir, it is in marble.
Yeah.
So, like, is there a reason for that, or like because like when we visualize now, like we can never go back to the bimba and see like mother and this, like because our visualization is going to be like totally different now after going through this.
I hope it's not a bad thing.
Like it's very difficult. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
making sense. It's very
Yeah.
difficult now to look at mother like in that kind of a form right now because I'm mentally like consciously I'm thinking like whatever you're saying, my visualization is this.
Yeah.
So like I'm not sure how I'm putting it, but like this is what like the confusion is now for me.
Oh, absolutely. So the way we would only see is if everything is her reflection, and I take this notepad and I would say, yeah, this is nothing but her, right? So whether we invoke her into, like whether we mentally visualize her, or we invoke her into a yantram, or we invoke her into a vigraham or a murti, it's all nothing but her. So that's essentially what you're looking at. And once you go beyond in sadhanas, as Shankaracharya explains it, nothing else matters. So you really don't need a mother's vigraham in front of you in order to do your pujas, or you don't feel like, oh, like, I used to do abhishekam for this shivalingam every day, and now I'm having to travel, I can't carry the shivalingam, how do I do abhishekam? That causes a lot of anxiety for many people. So we have to go past all of this, and this visualization helps in that process. So you can see her in everything, and if nothing's available, you can see her in everything still, in yourself as well.
Thank you.
And from Agama Shastras, and I don't know much about Agama Shastras, but there is a Guruji who is like, who has done so much research. He's an architect by profession, and he builds temples, and he's a sthapati as well. So what I hear from him is granite has a lot of attractive powers. And what he was showing me just blew my mind, and I hope, like, someday I'll get like immense amount of time in my life so that I can actually do some of these amazing studies. So all the mantras and the bijaksharas that we chant in front of that vigraham, there is a specific portion or a specific spot in the vigraham that will attract different kinds of these bijaksharas. And underneath the vigraham, when it gets installed in on that base, underneath they have these layers and layers of yantras and other navadhanyas and, like, navaratnas. They put so many different things in there, including some of the like, what you call aushadis or the plants. There are many variations of that he was trying to explain to me. I'm not an expert, obviously. What he was saying is, what gets attracted generally goes and flows into earth, right? So everything gets spread in order to concentrate and keep things within that vigraham. And why temples are more powerful, and temples have so much peace that you just go into this temple, there are millions of people visiting the temple, but you still feel that energy there. And that's because they try to contain what we are chanting, all the pujas and abhishekams and everything that get done, they contain it. And even the milk abhishekam that they do, I heard it's because there is so much heat that gets generated because everything is now getting added to this vigraham, that through milk and through abhishekams they cool it down and still maintain to keep it within the vigraham, so the vigraham doesn't blow up. So that's the essence of why there is a Vigraha Puja in the first place. That, your visualization, all your thoughts are going out and your chanting is going out. There are waves, like sound waves that are passing. But how do we manage to put it in one place so we can continue to have that energy rather than spreading it across, the universe? And we should be spreading it across the universe, don't get me wrong, because that's essential too. But some of it should be energized and captured in the Vigraham, and that's why they do all the consecration process and the pran. At homes we do the temporary prana sthapana, and in the temples where we do the permanent one, there is a different energy that gets collected in there. So the Jaladivasam, the Dhanyadivasam, the Kshiradivasam, where the Vigrahams actually sit in those in dhanyam, or the what do you call, the grains, in milk, in water. They maintain it for a few days, and then there are like major homas and all the powerful mantras that get chanted before installing the. We've done it in GTOB last year. So all of that happens, and that's why it's essential to go do those chants. Whether we may mature over them, and that's why Shankaracharya, despite being a sannyasi, went and installed so many Shakti Peetams and written so many stotras for the rest of the universe, so that we continue to still gain that energy from what he has done. I hope that.
Yeah, Guruji, they've been saying that is why I believe, is it so, that is that the truth, that they say the Pratishtha day is like to see a Pratishtha, Bimam getting Pratishtha is very punyam for, in one's lifetime to see that. Is that correct, Guruji?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're just bringing this universal energy and trying to contain it. Some of the energy is infinite, but some of that energy, and you're trying to contain it in this Vigraham, and you're continuing to do those pujas and like Naivedyams every day to maintain that energy there.
This we only do in the temple. So in our houses, when we keep the photos and the deities and all that, then there is nothing, and we don't have to do that. Is that, Guruji?
So depending on what kind of puja you do,
Okay.
so what I would say is, for a minimum puja, we don't, because we tend to go to travel. You don't want to leave your temple without any naivedyam and things like that. There is a temporary prana pratishtha process, and that prana pratishtha process, elongates with lots of. What I do is much longer, but a simple prana pratishtha, a super simple prana pratishtha could be done, that you are the prana shakti, and what you're doing, what you're praying to also has that same prana shakti, and then you have to bring it back into yourself. You can't leave it in the mandiram. So that could be performed. So if anybody is interested, just send me a note on the forum. I'll just give you like a 3-syllabled something and a little mudra that you can do to do the prana pratishtha before you do your pujas. So you're containing the energy, and then it multiplies in any vigraham or anything that you're doing puja to. And then essentially you have to bring it back into yourself. So your energy keeps multiplying, and then you just do the same thing every day.
Okay, so this is for the temples which are in, sorry, the puja room which we have in our house,
Correct.
and we can do that for that. And
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
thank you, Guruji.
And in the cases of when we are, say, for example, traveling, and in our long flights back home, so what I generally do, I'm not doing any prana pratishtha or anything. I'm just doing my mahavakyas, and I'm just doing internally. So energy kind of stays within.
Yeah, Guruji, I'll be interested in that. And also, one quick question on that note, like normally people go around the Garbhagriha like couple of times, right? So I think as you were telling me, I was thinking, visualizing when you say they're containing the energy there. So when we are going around it, we are getting that positive vibration and radiation. So is there,
Exactly.
I see lots of people going around like many times. Is there like people go like 3 times, like 9 times? So is there like a time thing which you have to go? Is there like the number matters, or like?
I think in our Sanatana Dharmam, we actually look at the odd numbers, right? So either 1, 3, generally there is a 9. Sometimes I'm crazy, so I do 108. That's the maximum I've done so far. So it depends on, I keep just chanting something like a Purusha Suktam or, Vishnu Suktam or some Suktam or something, and I'm just going around and I keep thinking like, if I'm doing walking, like I'd rather do it in a temple sometimes, so I don't have to, I get that additional like benefit of being with that consecrated space. I don't do that every day, but sometimes I do it. But 1 or 3 or 9 is the more normal numbers.
Thank you, Guruji.
And Guruji, I've also heard that they were saying that for Shiva, I mean, for a particular deities is the number of times, like Shiva is 1, 3 odd numbers, and for Devi it is even numbers. Is that correct, Guruji?
I have personally not heard that. Maybe it is correct,
Okay.
but I'm not the all-knowing, so I might not
Okay.
have caught that yet.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji.
Okay.
You said 1, 3, or 9 for Navagrahas, or did you say for any
For any
um,
any
anything?
deity, any
Temple.
deity, yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Guruji,
Go
I
ahead,
have a
please.
question.
Sure.
I have been, as part of my puja, I have been chanting Lalita Sahasranamam as well as Vishnu Sahasranamam on a daily basis. But I was not knowing, I don't know much of the meaning of the Lalita Sahasranamam. And now that you are exposing me to super import of full import of all the namas. Should I visualize each nama in my chanting? Or
So
generally what it is, uh, when I would come to Kamashi Kamadani, I bring forth a vigraha of Kamashi and Meenakshi and then Agalandesri, and then all the temples I have visited from Kedarnath to Kanyakumari. And then also when I chant Vishnu Sahasranama, I I I do dana of Guru Ayyappan
mm,
and Venkateswara and Badrinath. And generally I do along with when I do Kamachi and then her Shiva concert also I invoke them. Is it the correct way, or you should visualize each individual nama?
it's not necessary. Ultimately, all of this has to lead us to that ihanta ahanta, no, abhedam. Basically,
Mhm.
that in separation, or there's no distinction between me and the universe. So what we call as the jagat, the Bhagavan, and the Ishvara, jagat, and me. So there are three concepts, right? Like this is what we see as the triangle. And ultimately, this whole triangle has to merge into Bindu. So even when we look at the Sri Chakram here, so we see the triangle, right? Like, after crossing all of these different layers and avaranas, we get into the Bindu where there is a Triputi. So these three
Yeah,
spots, right?
yeah,
Ultimate goal
yeah.
is to reach to that Bindu. How you reach there is like, individual choices, but
Mhm.
whether we are stuck with one form, or we can see her in like multiple forms, whether this whole visualization what they're trying to teach us is she's not contained into a vigraham, she's not a human form or human being, she's way beyond all of this, she's the universe herself. As long as we see that, and we see us as part of that universe, as not
Mhm.
like what Shankaracharya says, as not the wave, see yourself as the samudram itself, we are as the water, because wave is also formed of a water, a bubble is also made of water. So you are nothing but the samudram. If you are able to see that through any form, you're absolutely on the right path.
And
But
not only
go ahead, sir.
during my chanting, not only that I am invoking Devi, I am also when it comes to Gana, Ganapati, I also pray for Ganapati. And then also when Kumarana Ganadamba comes, Kumara, I bow to Subramania.
Yeah.
And then when the Guru also, I invoke them, so like Dashinamurti, Sagaracharya, and this one.
Yeah.
When I Brahma Guru, so when I chant that, Deva Guru, I invoke them also. Is it
Absolutely.
all?
Absolutely fine. And even in Sri Chakram, I don't know if you're seeing these spots,
Yeah,
what we call as the
yeah.
Ambika Panchayatanam according to Shankaracharya. So there is the Panchayatanam, and then later he added, like, Subramanya. Once he created the visual, then he added Subramanya. But if you notice, I don't know if you're able to see it or not. So let me try to twist it a little bit. So this actually represents Ganesha, Ganapati. This represents Surya. If you go up, that is Vishnu, and that's Rudra.
Okay.
So essentially, what we are saying is all of these, like, this is the Trilokya Mohana Chakram, right? Like the square, and
Yeah.
they are here. All of these is or will also merge into the Bindu. So you can think about it as from the bindu, the one we were talking about, how universe got created. It's a bindu, like, it's a small dot, and now what we call as the God's particle in science. So that one particular spot, like in a very minute particle, has expanded into the universe, similar to what's happening here. Like, right from the bindu came all of these avaranas. Now, if we want to go back into and get mukti, then what we have to do is reverse engineer this process, right? Like, from the Trilokya Mohanam to go into this Bindu. So the reverse, like, contraction process at an individual level. When the whole, like, universe contracts itself, that's called Pralayam. But here we are looking at how we transcend all of these and how we get to that vision of there is nothing but me and everything. I'm just part of this whole. I'm not an individual entity outside of this whole. And once we get this into our minds, how we see things will be very different, right? Whether it's you or me, there is no difference between us.
I see. I know good. Because while mainly I was afraid that I am fragmenting my focus from between various devatas. That is my worry.
Correct.
So
Correct.
now that you have explained to me, that more or less I'm doing right, isn't it?
Correct. So that's the first step. Like, once you start doing this process for, like, your sadhana continues, you will not see any difference between any of these things.
Yeah.
Within the mother's vigrahams, like, whether it is Akhilandeshwari or Vaishno Devi, or whether you see Ganesha or mother, there is no difference in all of this. And there is nothing more exists than her all over, right? And the same thing comes in Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter when Bhagavan is showing the Vishwarupa Darshanam. And Arjuna asks, I want to see your Vishwarupam. And Bhagwan gives him some special set of eyes and says, okay, I'll divyam dadami te chakshuhu is what he says. He gives this special set of eyes and says, now you can see the Vishwarupam. Obviously, when we look at the pictures, we look at it like, Bhagwan has 1,000 heads and 1,000 hands. But the visualization that Arjuna would have received is this whole universe is in Krishna. And then he starts, like, feeling amazed, and he gives, like, beautiful slokas come after that. At some point he says, I'm scared. I just, can you come back to normal? And that happens because now Arjuna is separated from seeing himself outside of the universe, and he's seeing the universe as one and himself as one. And in the magnanimity of the universe, the person is so small. So it is kind of fearful in that way. So he says, like, okay, I just want to see my Krishna, like, the regular, my friend, my cousin. Can you come back to normal? Is what he says. So the fear factor comes when we see these many entities in billions of things. So it's that.
Also,
Go ahead.
during puja, I don't do any prana pradishta. Is it necessary?
As your sadhana is becoming more, and the way I say this to this group, if you're listening to the meanings of Lalita Sahasranamam, you might have had done so much that Bhagavati thinks that your sadhana is needs more fruition. Otherwise, it's not for everybody, and not everybody will understand even what's being said. So it can be openly said, and half of it will just probably purely fly away. So as your sadhana increases, uh, it becomes a good, like an important thing to do that, because you're now protecting the energy and then bringing it back to you and multiplying it multifold. So your sadhana goes to a next level. I won't say it is necessary. I'm not recommending it for everybody. If you feel in you, you will hear from your conscience. Nobody from outside is telling you to do anything. Your inner conscience drives what your decisions are. And if your inner conscience feels, yeah, I think I'm at that stage, a very simple process exists for it, like, hardly 30-second process. Because it's 30 seconds, it's not for everybody. Again, I'm saying that multiple times. uh, just listen to your conscience, and make your choice.
So Guruji, one day we will get to hear your Sri Chakram, and it's very beautiful, which is behind it. It's
Yeah,
nice.
I use that both literally and symbolically as well, because Sri Vidya is my background, and so is Vedanta, but I don't have a way to represent Vedanta because Vedanta represents me. So with the Vedanta and Sri Vidya background is what I am.
And not only is, and then once we finish this class, I mean, I feel that we are very rejuvenated.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear. That's what Mother probably is looking to provide you guys through me. I'm just purely an instrument of in her hands. I have none of this knowledge, and so many times I actually feel like, oh, I wanted to share that, Mother. And even today, you would literally see, and most likely we will not be able to get to this. I have this note to myself that I was going to talk about one of the critical important bijas. As we were saying, like, Lalita Sahasranamam has, like, crores and crores of bijas that may not have been even discovered by even the rishis. But I wanted to provide one bijaksharam and provide today. But you know what? She did not want it today, so it'll happen next week. That's fine. Whatever she wishes, right? Whatever she wants to deliver the message.
Thank you, Guruji.
I'm just the messenger.
Thank you.
Guruji, today, sorry, I wanted to share, like today I was thinking about the Sri Chakram a lot. And I was thinking I should ask you about that behind you. Like this was going on running in my mind from the time class started. I have to ask. Like Mother came in you to tell this to me. Like I was wanting to ask, where did you get it? It's so mesmerizing.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that, and like I was thinking, like, because I had gone to, I don't know whether you've been to the Bhuneshwari Amman temple,
Yeah,
like in Brampton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was thinking about that and somehow relating all this, and I was like, it looks as if Mother came into you to tell me all these things. This was in my mind. You won't believe it today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
What I will definitely, and I know this from personal experience, you have to have done so many crores of punyas, and that's what Shankaracharya says in Viveka Chudamani. And Bhagavan says so many times in Gita, it'll come at least 3 times that, sorry, somebody in my office. So without crores and crores of janmas worth of punyam, we wouldn't be able to even understand what this knowledge is and what she wants to share with us. So I want you guys to hold on to this really tight, close to your heart.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you. So unless there are any other comments, we'll conclude it here for the day, and then from next week.
Guruji, I have a small thing.
Sure.
The yantra, the brass one which we keep in our mandir, small one, and the temples, they have little bit with the 3D dimension.
Correct.
And there's some picture like poster. At home, what kind of yantra we can keep for small puja?
So yantras require a lot of attention. saligramas, yantras. And it's ideal to get diksha so you know how to take care of your yantra, is what gurus will always say. But you already have one. It's important to do a minimum puja and a bit of naivedyam, because once you actually bring pranashakti, the pranashakti is hungry.
Oh,
So it's important to even offer, like, a small, sugar lump is also
okay.
fine. And, in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam, even like water is fine, or even just bring me a leaf. But don't leave it without naivedyam is what is preferred and recommended. So if you have one already, and even generally, like, if you don't even have a yantram, if you have a little mandiram and you're doing puja to it, when you cook food in your home, whatever you cook, it could be biryani too, that's also fine. But because that's the food that Bhagavan has given you that day, just offer a little bit to Bhagavan and mix that in the whole of what you have cooked. So the whole thing becomes prasadam, and every day you're eating prasadam.
Wow, very good. I thought prasadam means that you'd have to give some sweet or sugar or something like that.
No,
But
no.
you said
Rice.
what you cook at home also we
No,
can.
prasadam is food. Prasadam is food.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
convert your food into prasadam every day.
Oh.
Guruji, on that note, like I'm not taking much time, but like once, like as I said, I go to this Tirupati Mandir to volunteer a lot, and the Gurukul Dev was telling, like, whatever murtis we are keeping at home, it shouldn't go like beyond a certain height, like it should be this much only.
Yeah.
So because like if you
Like
have a
our,
bigger one, you have to keep on doing like lots of pujas and thing.
Correct.
So
like a
instead of
fingers, like our finger, 3
yeah,
inches or
Yeah,
something like that.
3 inches is what they,
right?
yeah. 3 anguli. Yeah, that's correct. So they say that the larger the murti is, and the more you have, the more attention they need. Just like children, right? If you have a little infant child, you absolutely take care of that child. So when I got my saligramam about, I think, an year ago. And my brother went to Manasarovar and Kailash, and from there I needed something. So I asked him to bring a saligramam, and even the store person actually needed to talk to me, confirm that I have dikshas and I do naivedyam every day before he even actually sold it to me. So it's not even something that people just give it, even if you were paying money.
Thank you, Guruji.
Question, as a woman, when we have a periods and all, what will happen when we are not doing any offering or anything at home? If the children, husband are not cooperating, what do you do?
So generally make it a habit even in the family, whether doing puja or not. Just send a banana with somebody and get it offered. And you have to explain it to them that you are bringing energy into home, and that energy requires some attention. That is the most ideal way to do it, because even they are benefiting from understanding the importance of the vigrahams and the mandiram that you have at home. The other way, if nobody is at home, and so many times I know I go to conference, like, for work, on professional conferences, and the only thing I can offer at that time, I usually carry something with me in my room, and I can't do my, like, regular 4-hour puja at that time, obviously. So I take a small fruit from the previous night, from, like, the midnight snacks that they provide, and I just offer that fruit and do my, like, quick 10-minute puja to the vigraham. The other option is, if you don't have anybody at home and you are at home but you're not able to provide the naivedyam, there is the manasika naivedyam that you provide, because you're not stopping to eat, whether it is periods or not. So whatever you have in your plate, you do the manasika naivedyam at that time, visualizing the mother or the father, whichever form you want to visualize, and offer it to the universe, the creator, and then have it.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
And this is after the prana pratishtha, or like, sorry, the prana, what you said, you will teach us about 3 lines for it, and with that only you have to do, or it's just normally for everything? I mean, my question.
Everything that is going into your body requires purification, is what I would recommend for everyone.
Okay. Okay, Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
No matter
Be-
what's going into you, what you listen, what you see, what you hear, and that's what, like, the three monkeys talk about, right? Don't listen to unnecessary stuff and whatnot. So all of those aggravate the tamasic and rajasic qualities in us. It's ideal to just keep it more sattvic as much as possible, because ultimately when you go to that sattvikam, that's when there is more perceptive abilities that you build, that anything that is getting taught, or the mother is trying to teach you something, there is more, it's like children running all over the place and the mother is trying to teach them math. How many of us have faced it, that you want to make that child come and sit, and even that child is like not listening? So you can make, like, she can make us sit and teach us something, but it might not even go into our head. So one of our gurujis used to say, many people, like, he teaches like really well, and he would say, some of you might be gathering so much from all of what's happening here, but some men would have been dragged by their wives because they need a ride, and some, like, most of them are not even interested. Most of them think, what is going on, like, I could have watched cricket, I could have done this, and they're yawning, or they're just standing outside, like smoking or chatting with their friends, and, like, they're just banging their head on, like, why does my wife have to drag me every day? So that perception is important. No matter what comes to us, what gets into our head is only so much, and it's important to maintain that sattvikam. So there is what is getting taught to us. There is more. We have built enough perceptive abilities within us, and that would come through ensuring there is less tamasic and rajasic stuff that you're ingraining, whether it is through ears or eyes or mouth or whatever, and keep it as much as, like, consider water to be prasadam. Consider every message that's coming to you. Listen to most of the satvika messages, or what you eat is prasadam. And just look at everything what you're breathing, and we were talking about pranayama, and just doing some what Bhagavan was trying to teach us in chapter 4 of Gita during the chanting classes. We were talking about breathing, how important is vayu in our body, how important is water in our body. So everything, take it with, like, even simple om when you're taking something inside will just purify what you're eating or what you're intaking.
Guruji, one last question. I just have it. I've seen people when they're eating food, they put water around that plate and then they offer like this. That what you're saying, and then they offer little food and then they pray and eat. Like I've seen in all religions also, when they pray and they eat. So I've seen that thing. So this is what you're explaining now, Guruji.
Correct. Whether do you do it, like, in a conference, for example, I don't do all those paricheshanam and everything. I generally do it at home. But if I'm in with my colleagues, and, like, everybody is eating what they would like to order, and I'm eating my food, in my visualization, in my head, I am doing an offering at that time, doing my naivedyam and having the food. And it could be simple, like no action, no kayikam required. Kayikam is like any body movement is required. There is the kayika, vachika, manasika, right? We talked about that. Kayikam is something to do with body or bodily parts. Vachikam is something to say, and manasikam is everything is in the mind. So even if you're doing it in the mind, it's an important factor, and what you are intaking has to be very purified.
Thank you, Guruji.
Guruji,
Sure.
we have a saligram at our home. I'm doing daily puja. This is inherited from generation to generation. Should I take any special care for this saligram?
Once in a while, it's important to do a bit of abhishekam to maintain the energy. And as we were talking about, as the more energy builds into it, there is pressure that gets built into it, right? Like heat and pressure and all of the, like, the physics that goes into it. So, sometimes, whenever you get time, maybe once a month, just do a bit of abhishekam to it, whether you do it with Vishnu Sahasranamam or whether you do it with Purusha Suktam, whatever. Even if some.
I do with abhishekam.
Okay, so Abhishekam and Naivedyam are the most important things for Saligram.
Naivedyam also I do every day.
Perfect.
Yeah. That is no special other than this. no special attention to give.
No. So these two, I think, are the most critical, whether it's a yantra or saligrama or shivalinga, we just generally do this.
Saligrama is essentially Mahavishnu's.
Swarupam, yeah.
Yes.
And if the yantra is not activated, do we still have to do all the pujas? It has been given as a gift for me. I don't know whether I didn't do any activation.
Yeah, so they say that, and if you don't mind me being open about it, if it's in your mandiram and you have been doing puja to it, or it's part of the it's getting the puja as part of the mandiram, there is some energy activation that is being done to it. If you have kept it outside of the mandiram where you don't do your pujas and you kept it as a showpiece, then it is any other metal. It's no different than, a deepam kundi or something like that. If you want more from the actual benefits of yantra, doing a little bit of prana pratishtha will be helpful.
So this prana pratishtha that you are going to suggest will help that also?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
And essentially, the prana is coming from nowhere else, right? The prana exists throughout. What my Guruji used to give as an example, my Vedanta Guruji, as like electricity exists everywhere. But when you put it in a string of wire, in a copper wire, and you have a switch to it, and then you have a bulb that has tungsten, like, all the things that are needed, that's when you can turn on the switch and the bulb glows. But the same thing, you drive it to a fridge, the fridge doesn't glow, the fridge is just going to go cooler because what you have done to it. So individuals could be any of these different gadgets that we were just talking about, but the prana shakti, the shakti exists everywhere. When it comes into each of us, it just glows in different ways. How you make that glow, how you gather more energy, and how you utilize your energy makes a whole difference in who these individual pieces of the larger jigsaw puzzle are. So the reason I came to that is when we are doing even the simple prana pratishtha, or not the permanent prana pratishtha, when we do it for our mandiram, all we are doing is bringing the prana shakti from us into the yantram or the puja mandiram, and then bringing it back into us before we get up from the mandiram and move on.
You have to teach us how to get in and get out also, Guruji. You have to teach us correctly how to do it.
Correct.
Please.
Yeah. So, and this is not something that is again for everybody, right? So that's why I wanted to make sure that it is for those who are interested and those who are committed to do a bit of Naivedyam every day. Otherwise, if you don't have time, there could be so many other reasons that we can do, and there are commitments in our lives. So if that's the case, wait for the opportunity. It will come. If you are listening to this, and if you are listening to Lalita Sahasranamam and the meanings, the inner uncoverings of it, then you will definitely get the opportunity, and it doesn't need to be rushed. If you can't commit, don't worry about that at all.
Okay, Guruji.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll conclude here unless there are any other comments. Okay. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु Sarvam Sri Paradevatarpanamastu. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Chat next week.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you
Namaskar.
so much,
Namaskar.
Guruji, for the wonderful explanation.
Wonderful. Very nice. We enjoyed
Thank you.
thoroughly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I learned a lot today.
Namaste. I'm glad.
Thank you,
Thank
Guruji.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You.
Bye.